Our conversation on race relations continues now with State Senator Doug McCrory. He's a Democrat from Hartford. Senator McCrory, good to see you here today.
Great to be here, Dennis. Great to be here. Great to be on your show. Great opportunity.
Well, we'll do it in person again. I know you come on quite frequently, but I wanted to first of all extend my condolences to the loss of your father. He was really well known in Hartford. People really looked up to him. So our condolences.
Yeah, he was quite a personality.
He lived a long life. He was very blessed.
Good life.
I want to talk to you, and we just spoke with Vernon Riddick, the chief of police in West Hartford, talking a little bit about race relations in his town and across the state. What are your constituents telling you about how they're feeling in the wake of the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis?
I will tell you honestly, and I can't speak for everyone, but the 99% of people, the Black Americans, I'll say specifically, are very frustrated. They're tired. They're numb, they're upset, and they're concerned about what's happening in our society, what's happening in Hartford, what's happening in Connecticut. And they really want to know what are going to be the next steps to change the situation in which they're living in right now. Their mothers are concerned, their fathers are concerned, and children are concerned.
Growing up, did you ever have a difficult encounter with police?
Yes, but not as bad as what some of my colleagues I had. You know, I live in Hartford. I grew up in the north end of Hartford, right? So, you know, we have a lot of police officers in the north end of Hartford. And of course, I've been pulled over for reasons I believe that was inappropriate. But more so, even my child at a very early age, at the age of 10, he went to school in West Hartford. He was racially profiled at the age of 10 by a police officer. So it has affected me and my family personally.
When we talk about, we were hearing all these conversations about a demand for police reform. What would you like to see change? And as a lawmaker, what would you consider proposing?
First thing, the most important thing is accountability. Everyone has to be held accountable for their actions. So the people are saying, in my community, say, look, if law enforcement do something wrong, they should be held accountable. They should be arrested. They should be convicted. And they should go to jail for doing things that are inappropriate. It's what we see is very much inconsistent. There's too much inconsistency in our laws and our governing and how things are being handled. And if things were done consistently, when wrong is wrong, people need to be held accountable. And what we see in our communities is not accountability. So change has to come.
Chief Riddick told us that he would like to see more Black police officers, as I assume you would, but he says that they are extremely difficult to recruit because they don't want to become officers. Why is that?
I don't think just adding Black police officers to a force is going to be the answer. What you saw in Minneapolis, you saw one police with his knee on the neck, but you saw a Black police officer there. You saw another white police officer there. You saw another Asian police. It is the system that needs to change. Just adding good people to a bad system doesn't change the system. The concept of policing has to change. If the root of your tree is rotten, and understand, we know historically policing started from slave patrols. So if the idea of just that alone has to change. So I don't just think adding multiple colors to a police force is going to be the problem of change the situation.
You live in Hartford. There are a couple of city council members who believe that the police department, HPD, should be defunded. What do you think about that?
First, you have to explain to me, what does defunding mean? And if defunding means just taking all the money, just losing, wiping out the police force, I don't think that's the answer. Change in the system has to come. So unless you have to define what defunding to me first. And if it's just taking all the money away and firing all the police officers, that's not going to work either. That's not going to work.
Why do you think, as you look at some of the demonstrations in other cities, there have been some looting and some rioting, but we have not seen that in Connecticut. Why do you think that is?
I will say people understand that just rooting and lying and destroying your community is that's not the answer. That's not going to solve anything. So we know that doing that is not the answer. The answer is changing the system. The answer is providing opportunities for those people that live in those systems. I would say this, in other communities where you see that happening, the people that live in those communities, the buildings, the stores, and the properties, they don't own them. It's like foreigners that own that. So if you don't own anything, then looking at it and saying, look, I'm gonna tear it down, it's meaningless to them. So that's the reason why you see people in Connecticut, they're not gonna do that, because we understand that way doesn't work. That was tried in the 60s and it didn't work. What we need is sit down and have honest conversation about how we're gonna move forward in the state of Connecticut, changing the laws, the way policing is taking place, providing economic opportunities for people that live in those communities, changing health disparities in our community. All these things go hand in hand. Until we have an honest conversation about all those things, nothing is going to get done.
Why do you think that COVID-19 is hitting the African-American community particularly hard?
That's the open-ended question. If you go back and look at redlining, you look at systems that had put in place from years, generational. That's why you said pre-existing conditions. Pre-existing conditions are in most communities, right? But because of the environment people live in, the way they live so close on top of it, these laws that were put in place back years ago a light has been shined on them, and that's why it's affecting our communities even worse. If you can't house people in small areas of a city and expect different outcomes with health. I'll tell you this, the facts are, and in Hartford, there's a 15-year health disparity between someone who lives in the city of Hartford and someone who lives in a town of Southwest, which is 5 miles away. Just on your zip code alone. Has nothing to do with how you take care of yourself, has nothing to do with health disparities, has nothing to do with it. Just your zip code alone impacts your health.
State Senator Douglas McCrory, we always enjoy having you on the program, and soon enough, sir, you'll be sitting right here. Once we are allowed to have guests and after the coronavirus crisis is over, we're doing all our interviews remotely. But we thank you, sir, for joining us, and enjoy your Sunday.
I thank you, and I'll say this, Dennis, our voices in our communities will be heard, whether it's special session or otherwise. Our community voices will be heard. Thank you, Dennis.
Well, we look forward to covering it. Thanks, Senator. In a moment, more on coronavirus, and we welcome your comments on social media. You can find me right now on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.